I was just watching. Yeah, somehow it's time.
Well, I put this on.
Oh yeah, are we ready? Are we live? Are we live? Go ahead and hit record. Yep.
Stay a while, or just passing through. This door is open to you. Come and see sights, come and share a hug. Come, let's pray together. Come, love and be loved. From the mist out to the turned out, from the pampered to the abused, this door is open to you. Come on in, come on in, come on in, come on in. God in us recognizes the God in you. Whether you're black or white, gay or straight, Christian, Buddhist, or Jew. This door is open. This door is open. This door is open. This door is open. This door is open to you. There's some kind of trouble.
Good morning, and welcome today. It's so great to see your awesome faces. Why don't you turn to each other and give each other an eye smile? Weren't expecting that very time. It turns out to be the same thing. All right. Thank you for joining us today. Our speaker today is the awesome, exciting, ever bubbly Rob Trace. His topic, though, is get your story straight. Our practitioner for the day is the lovely, always busy Reverend Gina. I am so glad you're with us today. It's just raising the energy of the planet. So remember that as we go about our week. So now it's time for our community song, Om Shanti.
Oh yeah, nice.
like to invite Reverend Liz up. I'd like to invite Reverend Liz up for our opening treatment, Circle of Light, and welcome.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good to see you all today. Good. So I would first like to just take a moment to have a quick treatment. You'd like to just get comfortable and get settled in your chairs.
The mic.
Put the mic right around. Can't hear you. There you go.
Is that any better?
Yeah.
Oh, I can hear myself. So let's just get comfortable and close our eyes if it's comfortable for you to do so. And let's just know that there's only one divine spirit. And this divine spirit is within each and every one of us. And I know that as the service proceeds today, it unfolds beautifully. And that we each get exactly that which we are seeking. So grateful for this truth and for this knowing I really said that it was done. And that is perfect. Thank you, God. Yes, sir. And so now, if I could ask all the practitioners, ministers, practitioner interns of all different faiths represented here today to circle the room. We're all holding a space of love and peace, joy, and healing. It's our opportunity to bring all of those that we feel may benefit from a little bit more peace and love, healing and joy. So I'd like to start with my brother Al and all my family. If you'd like to bring the names forth of those you'd like to bring into the circle. You can bring your own name into the circle now as well. And as we close the circle today, we would like to just welcome any newcomers that might be here today for the first time. And just say that we are so grateful that you chose to be with us today, because there's many other places that you could have been, but instead you came and joined us, and so we're grateful for your presence. And so we'd like to, a little bit of ceremony, we rub our hands together and bring up the energy. We turn one hand to ourselves and the other out to all of you. We see you. We're so grateful that you came and joined us today. Welcome to Without
He said hi.
Announcements coming. Announcements here. Hey everybody. Rob Trice here with the announcements. We have no little story today because I got a whopper one for you guys at the during my talk today, which I'm giving the talk. My first live talk, so I'm super nervous, but man, whatever. I'll just do what I do normally. Just this time I actually have a script, so it's nice. Let's keep this close here. Couple things. So I'm going to just jump into the week already. If you all have not grabbed a calendar, you can find it inside your bulletin. This is an ever-changing, dynamic document, so if anybody has any events or anything that they would like to see included on the calendar, please let a member of the board or myself know, and we'll get it on there. We are live streaming, first and foremost. I've had a few people want me to mention this for the last couple of weeks, and I don't think I've done a very good job doing it. We literally have a camera on us right now that is recording live
on Facebook or on YouTube, both, whatever, the internet. It's on the internet right now. Keep that in mind. In case you want to scream out something, it's going to be recorded in posterity. And if you pass in front of that camera, you're going to be on the internet in posterity. So just, so that might scare some people, that might excite some people. Just know that this is kind of the way we're doing it now. We have a lot of people who are watching this from home. And that's kind of the silver lining of the pandemic is that, now we have a live service, which is, kind of cool. It's 2021. We got to get on the internet, right? If anybody, we're getting all our different programs up and running slowly. I think we have the service kind of going well right now. We have our different programs throughout the week. Reiki Share is still on Zoom. That's on Mondays at 6:30. Our Spiritual Solutions Recovery Group, run by Reverend Terry, is on Tuesdays on Zoom at 5:30. And on Fridays, as always now, we have our band and choir meet at 5:30 here. If you have any inkling to sing from your heart and to the masses, play an instrument. I don't care if it's a slide whistle. You are all talented, brilliant people. We need people in the band and choir. Please come on Friday if you have any inkling of interest at all. My aunt, as I always say, my aunt is a music teacher, and she says everybody can sing. So please, we need members for the band and choir. If you would like to volunteer, if you have an idea for an event, or you'd like to volunteer for anything having to do with NTC, whether it's band and choir, talk to a member of the band and choir if it's something like that. But if you want to volunteer for anything else, or you're just looking for a job, you're just looking for a way of being of service to NTC, talk to Reverend Gina.
There you go.
Okay. Thank you. I was waiting for that. Okay, finally. Newsflash, everybody, we're still in the middle of a pandemic, okay? We're still in the middle of a public health crisis. It's still going on here in our state, around the nation, around the world. Some nations are doing a better job dealing with it than others. I think the United States is probably ahead of the game, finally, in dealing with this kind of thing. There are a lot of nations right now that we thought would be kind of the forerunners in showing us how to get out of this pandemic. And they're having a really tough time right now, namely Japan and Taiwan. They were like the gold standard on how to deal with the pandemic. And Japan is just canceled all the participants from watching the Olympics. It's that bad. Only like 5% of their population, 7% of their population is vaccinated. So everybody is dealing with this in their own way, including California, including Fresno County, including all of you. In that vein, some see this as a test of community strength. Some see this as a test of public health. Some see this as a test of the First Amendment right. That's fine. You're all correct. We are all correct. We all have our own El Guapo to fight. And we have our own reasons for and our own way of dealing with the pandemic right now. What we are asking, compelling everyone who attends our service, is to wear a mask. Totally your choice. But the CDC, I know people keep going back to CDC and Dr. Fauci, but they know what they're talking about. Everyone, if you know somebody who works in public health, listen to them. They know what they're talking about, and everybody is saying that when you are in an enclosed space with other people you do not live with, it lowers your risk by wearing a mask, whether you're vaccinated or not. Wearing a mask is a very, very easy thing to do. We've been doing it for 15 months. We may do it longer. We have free masks up in front. If you choose to wear one, great. If you don't want to wear one, great. Just saying, it helps if the more people that wear a mask, the better. We have replaced the filters on our HVAC system. So there are other things we can do besides wear a mask, of course. We can sit 6 feet apart. We're not doing that. We want to be safe, but also practical. We're not wearing masks up here when we're talking or performing. We want to be safe, but we also be practical. But what we're asking is, if you're in the audience, if you can wear a mask just for an hour, that would be great. But like I said, we've replaced our HVAC air filters with HEPA filters. We have an ear purifier now. We have more on the way that have been donated, and that can only help. So it's all about risk management. This fall, and I don't want to scare anybody, but you have to be frank in these times. There's going to be a resurgence. There's already the Delta variant that's out there, but that's a really scary thing. Viruses mutate. They're always mutating. It's not like some anomaly. Having as many people vaccinated as possible helps with this process. If we have enough people in a community vaccinated, like 70 or 80%, based on the healthcare worker that you talk to, herd immunity helps. It helps keep the virus from mutating. It doesn't just protect people and those around you. It keeps the virus from mutating. It has mutated. The scary thing is that it may mutate enough where our original vaccinations will not be as effective. My brother had some mysterious virus a couple of years ago. They thought it was MS. They didn't know what it was. We still don't know what it is. He almost died. That was really, really a hard time. Because of his condition, he's bright, healthy, has a full family, everything's running great. He cannot take the vaccination. I have other loved ones, and we all have loved ones who cannot take the vaccination. I would compel everyone to please, if you have not already been vaccinated, vaccinate yourself, not just for yourself, but for the people that you love. All right. I feel like I brought everything down. Sorry. All right. This is what happens when I have a script. So I just go off script, go on script, go off script, go on. You guys are all great. Thank you very much for your involvement. Thank you very, very much for being here today. And thank you very much for helping me feel less nervous about what I'm about to do in about 15 minutes. That's it. What's next, Wanda? Wanda's running the show.
Because I'm running the show, I'm on the script. Okay. Announcements have been awesome. I think we've all been illuminated, right? Or informed. I'd like to call Claudia up to do what we all know, the vision, purpose, and mission statement, and she's on it.
Hi, everybody. Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Hi, Claudia. Nice to see everyone today. Ew. All right, our vision. We are a spiritually empowered family. Purpose. To remember, experience, and connect with universal truth. Mission. Our New Thought community is a diverse spiritual family guided by universal principles and devoted to the awakening to the divine presence within each of us. We are committed to loving, inspiring, and healing.
Thanks, Claudia.
Thanks, Claudia.
Thank you, Claudia. And now it's time for our meditation song. If you would like to receive the energy, you can sit with your hands like this, and the energy comes to you. If you'd like to be grounded, just put your hands on your lap or your knees or wherever, and that helps you to be grounded. Before we ground ourselves up, we're going to have a reading and treatment by Reverend Gina.
Hi, everybody. Good morning.
Good
morning.
So good to see all of you. So my first reading is an article I found by Susan Cain entitled "How to Tell Your Own Life Story." What's your life story? I don't mean where you grew up, went to school, got your first job, etc. I mean, what's your story? What narrative have you constructed from the events of your life? And do you know that this is the single most important question you can ask yourself? According to the fascinating field of narrative psychology, the stories we tell ourselves are the key to our well-being. If you've interpreted the events of your life to mean that you're unlucky or unwise, it's hard to look optimistically at your future. Conversely, if you acknowledge that you've made mistakes and have faced difficulties but seek or have already glimpsed redemption, you'll feel a much greater sense of agency over your life. That time you were laid off, for example, is it further proof that your career is going nowhere? Or is it the best thing that ever happened, liberating you to find the work that suits you better? What about your divorce? Is it a sign you're unlucky in love or a difficult passage to a more hopeful romance? The idea is not to delude yourself that bad things are actually good. It is instead to find meaning in the progression from one event to the next. It is to recognize that everything constantly changes. In your life, you will move from triumph to heartbreak to boredom and back again, sometimes in the space of a single day. What are you to make of so many emotions, so many events? The facts matter less than the narrative. And my second reading comes straight out of the Science Mind book on page 423. In conclusion, what the world needs is a spiritual conviction, followed by spiritual experience. I would rather see a student of this science prove its principle than to have him repeat all the words of wisdom that have ever been uttered. It is far easier to teach the truth than it is to practice it. But the practice of truth is personal to each, and in the long run, no one can live our lives for us. To each is given what he needs, and the gifts of heaven come alike to all. How we shall use these gifts is all that matters. To hold one's thoughts steadfastly to the constructive, to that which endures, to the truth, may not be easy in a rapidly changing world, but to the one who makes the attempt, much is guaranteed. The essence of spiritual mind healing and of all true religious philosophy is an inner realization of the presence of perfection within and around us. It is the hope of heaven, the voice of God proclaiming, I am that which thou art. Thou art that which I am. Now, if you would just please close your eyes and get grounded and go within. God is all there is, and God and I are one. God expresses uniquely as me, speaking, thinking, and acting through me at all times. I know that God is always guiding me in every moment and in every situation. I quiet my conscious mind and I allow the infinite mind of God to reveal to me all that I need to know. I allow the divine voice within me to provide me with everything I want and all that I need. I act intentionally, out of inner guidance without question or doubt, because I know that God within me is all-knowing, all-seeing, all-powerful, and therefore is incapable of error. No matter what challenge I may be facing, I continue to feel peaceful and confident, knowing that God is making all the right and perfect decisions through and by means of me. I know that which I seek is seeking me. I believe that only good can come to me. I trust that everything God is, I am. I seek only the truth in every area of my life. I know that God cannot do for me that which he cannot do through me. Therefore, the more I can show up for me, the more I can show up for you. This is my story, the narrative I tell myself. This is my prayer treatment request. This is the truth and the process which has set me free. This is the narrative which allows me to walk this human experience with dignity, grace, and unwavering faith. as I continue to grow in understanding and effectiveness. It is with great, great gratitude that I release my word into the law, knowing that it has already been made manifest in the mind of God and expresses in my outer experience in perfect divine ways. It is all good, all of it, because it is all God. And this I accept and understand and celebrate at the depth of my soul. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And so it is. Aho, Ashe, Amen.
Usually I have Carol Ann to cattle prod everybody. I'm not used to it. Okay, we're going to bring it up a little bit, and this will set the tone for, I'm going to read you all a story here coming up. And so this is kind of the same, put you on the right mood, I guess.
Good. This is a nice song called The Constellations. It's featuring Rob and Noah. 1, 2, 3, 4.
just enough light to lay down underneath the stars. Listen to Papa's translations of the stories across the sky. Drew our own constellations. West winds often last too long. When they calm down, nothing ever feels the same. Sheltered under the kamani tree, waiting for the passing rain. Clouds keep moving to uncover the sea. Stars above us chasing the day away to find the stories that we sometimes need. Listen close enough, and all else fades away. It was just another night with a sunset and a moonrise, not so far behind to give us just enough light to lay down underneath the stars. Listen to all the translations of the stories across the sky. Drew our own constellation.
So I'd like to introduce our speaker for today, but just in case there's anybody in the room that doesn't know who Rob is, I met Rob 3 or 4 years ago when he came in, and he walked in and he immediately started taking classes. He immediately joined our choir. He's now our board president, and he just has walked in with a real attitude of how can I help? Where do you need me to be? What's going on? And he's one of my absolute favorite people because of that. If ever I need help with anything I'm working on, I know I can go to Rob and he's there for me. And so it's with great honor that I'd like to introduce Rob Price.
I missed everything she said. I just heard attitude. Thanks, Gina.
Good attitude.
Hey, everybody. Okay. So I'm here to make everybody feel better. Here is a short story that I wrote yesterday morning in between babysitting my niece and nephew. They were able to leave the house for a few hours, and I was able to jot a few thoughts down, and those thoughts ended up becoming, I guess, my talk. When I tell the story, I'm going to wear this hat. This is your cue to know that I am telling the story. I'm going to take this off, and I'll talk at you for a minute, and then I'll just jump into the story again. Okay. Am I far enough away from the mic?
You're good.
Right here? Okay, thank you. A lone woman shuffled through the desert. Tight robe cinched around her waist, ending at her knees so as not to drag or snag on the gnarled plants along her path. Long sleeves flowed over her hands. A wide-brimmed hat sat firmly on her crown. We will refer to the traveler as the crone from now on. The crone loved her hat because it kept out the sun like nothing else she owned. Top to bottom, the value of her possessions were as follows. She valued her boots most. She also valued the clothing that kept her cool and shielded from the sun. Her half canteen of water, her walking stick, and her machete, which she kept at her thigh. Even though the sun was boiling, it still felt cool. against her leg. However, her monk-like inventory of meager possessions was nothing compared to the value of the object she had packed tightly in her satchel. It was a gift. It was the gift. A gift for thousands offered by one. The crone was quite familiar with the sand and rock that surrounded her. Her early life was lush with green forests and soaked glens. Her later life was one of heat and light and hard desolation. This had taught her to appreciate the difference, to understand what value moisture and the cold provided when you were denied both. But we do not have time to admire the crone's history or accoutrement. The crone is being pursued. She noticed the group 2 days ago. She heard them talking the last 2 nights. They do not know how their voice carries in this land because they are totally foreign to it, unlike her. Her pursuers are people more familiar with soil and sand, more familiar with water and leaf than heat and cactus. She judged at least a half a dozen men and women, probably not more than 10, and they were not far behind her. Now, the crone knew many things that her pursuers did not. She knew the land. She had crossed this expanse more than a dozen times in the past years. Left foot, right foot, plant the walking stick, repeat. Left foot, right foot, plant the stick. Slow and methodical she went. She was fully aware, however, that their talking and bragging was getting louder by the hour, by the night. They were exerting themselves, sure, using up far too much water and energy, she was certain. They were on a mission, though, to acquire her gift. Her pursuers were starting to catch up. Why do I like a good story? Why do we all love a good story? Because stories are everywhere. They're in movies, they're in TV, they're in music, books, podcasts, video games, social media. When you tell others about your story, like what I did at work or at school or what I did over the weekend, you're telling it in the format of a story, whether you know it or not. Telling your story makes you identifiable to others. Hearing another story makes them identifiable to you. Our lives revolve around story. You wake up in the morning, your story for the day begins. You are the lead actor in your story. You are the lead writer in your story. You are the lead director of your story. And in Hollywood, no one knows what a producer does, but you are the lead producer in your story. You own your story. You make your story happen. And you add to your story by integrating everyone else around you. I'm going to bring up a couple examples of stories that have inspired me over the last couple of years. One is a TV show called Better Call Saul. I've mentioned this to you a couple times, probably a couple of you. But if you don't know anything about Better Call Saul, it's kind of an offshoot of what Breaking Bad used to be. It's about a lawyer named Saul Goodman, Saul Goodman, who is, through the episodes and through the seasons, he is finding his own way. He is rewriting his story literally every day right in front of his audience, right in front of us. It's a story about how powerful one person can change himself and how powerful it is that he can change the world around him, good or bad. And he does a lot of bad, but he does some good. Seeing that conflict, seeing that work out, changing his own story in front of us every week is just good writing. And it's very inspirational. I started playing this video game a couple years ago. It's called Disco Elysium. It's a pretty obscure title, so unless you are one with the world of video games, you may not even know what that is. That's okay. In Disco Elysium, you are, again, writing your own story. You are the main character in this story, in this video game that's about you. You start by waking up in a hotel room without knowledge of who you are or how you got there. And you're in your underwear. and the game says, go. and you have to figure everything out. I'm not spoiling too much, but you learn pretty quickly that you are actually a detective, and you are in town to solve a murder. And it's all about what people you choose to interact with, how you want to deal with them, how they deal with you. It's an amazing universe. I think it won Best Game last year, but I found that video game is as equally as inspirational as anything else that I've seen or watched on TV. The last example I'm going to give you is the song "This Land Is Your Land" by Woody Guthrie? Yes. A story about, not just about the individual, but about ourselves and our place in our community, wherever that community is. From the Redwood Forest to the Gulfstream Waters, thank you. This land is made for you and me. I'm going to get back to that, because the power of the individual, sure, you have complete control over. Your integration and your involvement with your community is the true power and nature of who you are. The crone had learned a lot about her pursuers over the last 2 nights. She heard them bragging and laughing like after they had set up camp. Fearless but ignorant. They didn't know what awaited them today. They didn't know about the crossing. The crone did. She was ready. As expected, by mid-afternoon, the crone came across the chasm. It still surprised her how quickly it would appear, like a crow looking down on you when you wake up in the morning. Even with the afternoon sun hot on her face and in her eyes, she could make out the far side about 100 feet away. Linking the crumbling edges of her side and the far side was the bridge. At least it used to be a bridge. What lay before her was nothing more than 2 fire-hardened poles at either end with ropes tied across the abyss. 2 top ropes to serve as handrails, 2 bottom ropes to hold the planks. A smattering of vertical lashings linked the top and bottom along the length of the bridge. The wind-dried and brittle planks that made up the floor of the bridge were uneven and missing several of their brethren. She noticed the first 2 planks were missing right off the bat. That was new. The crone eyed the gap for a moment before taking an exaggerated step out and placing her boot on the bridge. She tapped the plank hard before putting her full weight down. Out of the 20 or so times she has transversed this bridge, the crone had never remembered it being in such poor condition. So she begins to cross the bridge, being careful not to keep her full weight on any single plank for too long. Gnats flicked around her head and shoulders. Her steps were slow, calculated, and methodical. Plank by plank, boot scratch by boot scratch. Keep it slow now. Take your time. Hurry now. Your pursuers are close. She could hear their forced breathing echoing off the rocks. The breathing had gotten clearer since she had stepped onto the bridge. Plank by plank by plank, skip that cracked one, mind the gaps. Finally, she pauses at the halfway mark, the lowest point in the catenary. The crone calms her breath and thanks the wind for not blowing. The far side, her goal, was right at its highest point, even with her eye line. It's only going to get better from here, she sighs to herself. The dust on the hand ropes remains undisturbed until it sticks to her dragging fingers. The crone curses her sweating palms. What a waste of water. Plank by plank, step by step, drag, grip, drag, grip. The crone could not hear her pursuers breathing anymore. She didn't need to look back. She knew they'd arrived. They spoke to her. "Don't fall," came a man's voice. "Don't you fall now," echoed a woman's voice. Then a third voice took its time joining in. "Can you see the bottom?" The others grunted, and the crone could hear them rasping again. The crone looks down ever so briefly for the first time. She judged perhaps an 80-foot drop, almost as deep as the chasm is wide. Eons of crumbling cliff edge had created a glorious bed of shards at the bottom. A shadowy ribbon of running water could barely be seen cutting right through the middle of that bed of nails. The occasional flash flood that ran through the chasm did nothing to dull those edges. The crone allowed herself a surge of fear and then quickly smothered it. The others at the far edge began to sticker themselves in cat call. She sensed their fear, even from across half the chasm. They were working up their courage. A leader shushes them to silence. One step over the other, plank by crooked plank, goes the crone. She made her way very close to the far edge. The gnats had fully surrounded her head now, bumping into her cheeks, her eyes, flying into her nose and mouth. The crone shook her head to disperse the insects. She did not dare take a hand from the guide ropes. Then a large sting on her calf. Is that a hornet? How many bugs are up here? Then another sting at her back. They were throwing rocks at her. Stones skipped off the ropes and wood, ricocheted off the cliff face not 20 feet in front of her. Don't look back. Plank by plank, gap over gap, frayed rope grip by grip by grip. One stone skips off her brim, another skins her arm, none strike the satchel. Don't look back, plank by plank, protect the gift. Then the crone feels a vibration. They're starting to cross the bridge. So what are examples of good story elements? Characters, plot, theme, motivation, conflict, compassion, sure. When these elements of entertainment are done well, we cherish them for good reason. These are elements of your own life story. We've been telling stories since before campfires, all the way from Grandma's kitchen to Shakespeare's theater to modern movies, TVs, books, and video games of today. Even our own personal little entertainment vices, like 90 Day Fiancé, and I know you watch it, offers us a good story. Even politics and celebrity lives offers a good story. Explorers, I think by far, in my opinion, are the best storytellers. Who would not want to speak to an astronaut or a forest ranger or a spelunker? We write a new story each day we are on this earth. If we do it right, our stories will be told forever. Until the last cosmic particle in this universe emits its last quanta of radiation, our stories will resonate. The more you own your story, the stronger you transmit and receive. I personally found that the opposite of owning is blaming. When I blamed others for my condition, for the place I found myself in my own story, I was allowing others to write and produce and direct and even act in my story. Some folks have lived their entire lives by letting others write their story for them. I lived like that for a time. I can find nothing more boring. So what's worked for me is that I've let those elements of blame go and I've accepted more elements of owning. I'm not a professional writer. I don't hold any degrees in creative writing or literature or the humanities, but I do have tremendous reverence for those who do. I heard a quote a long time ago, and it goes something like, everybody has a book in them. I used to think that literally meant that everybody can write a book or write their life story and it could be written for them, you know? But I've come to realize it's way bigger than that. It's not that everybody has a book in them. Everybody has a story in them. And every person is telling that story or having that story being told about them. Every day that they are on this earth, they are both transmitting and receiving stories all the time. We are all transceivers. That is how we live and perceive and understand the world around us and the world within us.
All right.
Act 3. The crone crosses the expanse. continues to cross the expanse. Left, right, rope, 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 wood. She looks up to see that her palm is grasping the post on the far side. She had made it. The catcalling had started again. The ropes were vibrating with at least two crossing on the far side, getting closer. Confident, cool, and collected, the crone steps onto the earth on the far side, steadies her body, takes a breath, pulls off the satchel and safely places it on the earth, and reaches for her cold friend. With a single arc of precision, the crone draws her machete out of the scabbard and lands a single blow to the first plank rope. The two on the bridge shriek. She could see them clearly now for the first time, shrieking in horror. One leaps back to the side in a cloud of dust. The other one, the young man it looked like, clamped onto one handrail for dear life. The crone waits. She held the blade above the remaining plank rope. She was in no hurry now. She had all the time in the world. The man reaches out, mouth gaping, to his companions. They reach back and clasp his hand, then his arm, then shoulder. Then they pull him half leaping back to the edge. The crone cuts the second rope. With a flash of dread, the crone quickly reaches down and checks her satchel. The gift is intact and unharmed. Sudden exhalation blows dust from the satchel. She starts to get up. Please, madam. The voice from the leader from across the chasm is barely a whisper. We need this gift. The very gift that you hold in your hands right now. My people will perish without it. Surely you know this. The crone pulled back behind a rock outcropping. Before pausing and looking back, she gazes over the hot stone at her pursuers who are gathering near the far edge. The bridge hung down at their feet like a discarded snakeskin. There were 7 of them, rail thin, 3 men, 4 women, young and dehydrated, bedraggled and weary. The crone clears her throat and spoke for the first and last time. She points south along the chasm. Follow the stream south for 1 hour. There will be a path down to a sheltered glen with clean water and small game. Return home tomorrow. You have 7 stories between you to tell, 7 ways to change your village. Get there before the sun sets. And with that, the crone turns towards the setting sun and starts to walk. That's the crone calling. So I ended that story with a lot of loose threads. I know. That was on purpose. Who is the crone? Where is she going? What is she carrying? Where did she come from? Who is chasing her and why? Does she wear sunscreen? I don't know. But that's not the point. We lead the end of our day with a ton of loose threads. You are making your tapestry day by day. You do not need to rush it. A thread a day, some threads take a week, a year, some a lifetime. You are a thread in the stories of countless other people around you, in and around your life story. They are making their life stories. Every day you build and change and remake your story, that's the good news. Here's the great news. Your community benefits exponentially from your story as you do from all of their stories. So wake up tomorrow and continue to write your story. Everyone feel better now?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now's the time for offertory. Thank you.
Yeah, multitasking. Let's just take our offering and hold on to it, look at it, know that this is helping our church, our community, and that it represents our willingness to give towards them. And so, repeat with me. God is my source. Freely I give, and freely I receive.
One, two, three, four.
Maybe love is all anybody ever should believe in. Maybe life is just something that employs us till we die. Maybe all we know is that the sun will come up every morning. Maybe time can choose whether to be earthbound or fly. Everybody thinks they got it down. I won't worry, the truth's always been found. Your life story. Maybe you're the one waiting for the ship to find the harbor. Maybe you're the one looking past the forest to the trees. Maybe you still think all the nights you get life just gets harder. Maybe you will trade everything for just one moment's peace. Everybody strays to the sounds of their hearts calling. Now you can write yours down. It's your life story. Gather up your telegrams, your favorite pictures, best they last. Books and postcards, 45, every sunset in the sky. Carry with your maps and dreams, flashlights, friends who make you sing. What stars can help you find your place? Music, hope, and a daily grace. Maybe what we need, nothing but a tangled little mystery. Maybe what we take, nothing that is ever our Maybe love will fade, like the parchment pages of our history. Maybe life is made of flickers of some brilliant but strange. Everybody's waiting for a sign. I won't worry, I think you'll be just fine. Your life story.
us today. Now's the time for us to prepare for the week. And take the words of this song in your heart until we meet again. You stand?
This is going to be blessed always.
That's a good